I got it.
Recording in progress.
I got it.
Hello, 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 hello,
Hello. Hello, hello.
hello.
Oh,
Oh,
hi, Alice Soa. Kathy and I need to talk to you about Iceland. Stay tuned.
I also met somebody else who has done multiple residencies there.
Oh,
Excuse
but
me, I'll be
are they
right
as
back.
cool as Alice Soa doing bacteria dyeing?
No,
I don't know.
I think Alice pretty much takes the first prize there.
Yeah.
All
And,
right.
Feedback Friday always changes. So we just were having some challenges with this presentation going up. So guess what, you guys? There's no Feedback Friday song today unless you want to sing
But
it.
yeah, you guys can sing it.
Unless you guys want to unmute and sing it together, because I can't do it. Like,
It's okay, Amy.
are you
It's
guys
okay.
down with that?
No, we'll be okay.
You should.
We'll
I
be
mean, I
okay.
saw like in a couple people's faces, they're like,
They sort of lit up like, oh yeah,
I
let's
think I
do
can.
that.
I think I can.
Okay. Does somebody have a pitch pipe?
What? Oh, a pitch pipe. All of us together now.
Ah. Everybody take a breath. My computer's about to like run out of electricity here.
I'm really happy
Battery.
to hear that as you're recording this. It just keeps
Yes.
better.
We're adding layers and layers of richness onto this
I
presentation.
don't even wear deodorant. Don't do this to me.
No, please, TMI, Amy.
Come on.
Babs, we're not like this all the time. Honest to God,
Yes, we are.
we're highly paid professionals.
Thanks,
I'm
Sarah,
sorry.
Blackstone, Fredericks,
Uh,
Eclipse Shenanigans. Yes. And hello, Lydia.
oh my goodness, the things I didn't want to know about you, Amy.
Oh, I got more up my sleeve. Don't worry.
Oh no, no, no! Don't go there. Don't go there. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. So we just finished the song. It was wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Amy, I'm gonna launch unless there's something
Just
else
do
I
it.
should do.
Just do it. Yeah.
All right. So, welcome to Feedback Friday, episode 132. That is really 132. I thought you said 140,
I
but
messed up.
okay. Yeah, we're being aspirational right now.
Yeah.
I'm Kathy Hottori, the president of Botanical Colors. And joining me from Cape Cod, where it's warm, and in Seattle, it's cold, is Amy Dufault, our director of communications. And just a few reminders before we get started. But today we have natural dyer and specialist of non-toxic natural dye stuffs and bioregional regenerative textile systems, our dear, dear friend Babs Behan. I met Babs when she had just published her first book, Botanical Inks, probably 5, 6, maybe a few years later, earlier than that. And it was just a really beautiful volume that basically touched on so many questions and techniques that people had about natural dyes at that time. And she's just come out with her new book, Botanical Dyes, Plant to Print Dyes, Techniques and Projects. That's here. We have it in our online in our bookstore. And again, it's a really thoughtful discussion about all the different options we have as natural dyers. I mean, coming from the generation where we had just figured out that we could use basically concentrates and powdered extracts to dye larger scale. And now we're sort of exploring all these other different techniques and ways of finding dye plants and responsibly foraging them and working in community with others like restaurants or places where they're looking at how to deal with invasive or introduced species. It feels like our world has just really opened up, and Babs has been a part of that. So I'm really excited that she's coming to talk to us today. She is the founder of Botanical Inks, and she's visiting us from Bristol. Are you still in Bristol?
I'm in Devon now, in Dartmoor.
Oh, so she's in Devon. She's in an even more beautiful part of England. But for many years, she was in Bristol. She helped support the Bristol Textile Quarter, and she had the Bristol Cloth Project, which, if you are ever able to get your hands on a meter or two of this fabric, it's just really beautiful. It's all regionally hand spun, naturally dyed, woven in a mill that was being revitalized and reintroduced into production. And so it's just a really lovely project, and try to participate in that by looking for the things that Babs made out of those fabrics. So with just a couple things just to talk to you about. One is that we put a lot of our hand-woven hemp, which we call the Balkan collection. It's all vintage, and it's hand-woven, hand-spun hemp. It's all on sale on the site right now because I just got the DHL shipping package for the new supply that's coming in. So we're trying to make room for what's arriving soon. And the other thing is that we have Bab's book on sale, and all the dyes that she talks about in her book, we've also put on sale. So if you want to fall down the Babs Behan rabbit hole, it is now your chance. So don't miss out on that. So I am now going to turn it over to Babs. Just to let you know, we've recorded this. You all heard the recording announcement, and it'll be available after our presentation. Amy is going to be monitoring the chat once Bab's at the end of her presentation. And we are going to have you all be muted until we open it up at the very end to say hello and goodbye. So Babs, welcome back. It's so great to see you again. And you can now take it away.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks, Amy. Really lovely to be here again. And it's been a really lovely opportunity, actually, putting this talk together for me to actually reflect on what has happened in the last 5 years since the last book and the Bristol Cloth, and I was with Botanical Colours before, and it's what a wonderful thing to be able to do, to kind of look through all the pictures and think about the whole sequence of events, and now be able to share them with you. And like also just like coming up to Samhain and Halloween, which is like the end of the pagan year, the beginning of the next one. It feels like a lovely thing to do at this time of year. So I will begin. I'm going to tell you a bit about my journey into natural dyeing, and how I got into it, what having the book published did for me and my business, what's happened since then, and a bit about the new edition, and what's happening next. So first of all, my journey into natural dyeing, I started at uni, learning all the things not to do, the materials that I didn't want to work with, and the processes I didn't want to work with, the sourcing systems. And I spent a lot of time in India and got familiar with natural dye block printing houses there, and that everything was being sourced locally. It was all quite handmade manufacture, hand carving blocks, hand printing each individual motif. And sometime after uni and my time in India, and several trips around the world to different places where natural dye traditions are still very much alive and in use, I think I felt a lot of interest and confidence in natural dyeing as a viable pursuit and means for creating things commercially. And I was really curious about how those systems could be applied to this landscape, seeing as we don't have our traditional crafts, our traditional natural dyeing alive in a consistent timeline. So I sometime after uni in my travels, I had the opportunity to do an artist residency for 3 months in the Cotswolds in England. And that for me was just like a safe container to completely focus on becoming familiar with local dye plants, how to work with them, and to just learn more about them, to educate myself. And so I had these 3 months, and I spent my time foraging from the hedgerows, from the permaculture gardens that were on site, and harvesting plants like eucalyptus, you can see here, dock, nettle, all kinds of things, lots of food waste. I was working with local fleece that was gifted to me, as well as silks and linens, and just really getting clear on, you know, how you work with the different fibers and the mordants, and how all the plants behave differently. And in that time, I had the opportunity to teach workshops, which was a bit of an edge for me. It wasn't really something that I was familiar with or comfortable with. And we were working with disadvantaged groups, like children who had lost their homes, or people recovering from drink and drug abuse. So that quite challenging groups to hold. And it was amazing for me to do that, to get confidence in teaching workshops and holding groups. So I, in this residency, had that opportunity, and then this carried forward for me. So I started teaching more and more workshops. I was so passionate about everything that I was learning about natural dyes, and just really keen to share it with people. It wasn't really part of the landscape in Bristol and beyond at that time. It felt like a really new idea, even though it's obviously very old. And I just found there was such hunger for natural dye with people, and I was getting just so much positive feedback and invitations to teach in different places, and things quickly escalated for me, and I started getting really quite incredible invitations from really big, impressive organizations, and it just felt like things were snowballing. And I was, you know, very happy to be able to do this work and to spread this knowledge. And so probably after about 3 or 4 years of kind of running the business as an educational facility, I was getting more and more wonderful opportunities, and then I kind of got approached by this publisher called Quadrille. It was quite a funny, or quite a magical synchronicitous thing. I just moved into a new house, and I remember there was a book on the shelf there by Jill Mellor, who's quite a well-known chef in the UK, who works with kind of farm to table cooking, and really beautiful book. And I'd wanted to do a book because it made sense to put everything that I was teaching into one place, so there was access to more people than I would be able to teach by myself. And I saw this book and I was like, that's the book that I want to make, but I want it to be about natural dyes, not food. And I kid you not, the next time I opened my email inbox after that thought process, I had an email from Zena at Quadrille asking if I was interested in making a book. And I just kind of couldn't believe that happened. And then, you know, one thing led to another. I had 6 months to write this book, which is really not very much. It was a hell of a lot of work, and really satisfying. And you know, it's been incredibly successful. It's sold over 25,000 copies worldwide. It's been translated into French and German, and recently Chinese. It's been in Vogue magazine. It's just, you know, it's been extraordinary how well it's done. There was, you know, I'm also, I believe it's worth that kind of success, because it was a real labor of love, and a lot of work, and a lot of condensing a lot of information into one place. And I understand from the feedback I get that it's been really helpful for a lot of people. It's kind of very comprehensive guide of everything that you need to know to really start a natural dye project or practice, to transition away from petrochemical colors. And it's, yeah, some people say it's like the Bible for natural dyeing, and they keep it with them and reference it all the time, which is, you know, incredible, really. And so, you know, I was really excited to make a book, and I didn't really know what it would mean afterwards. And it's really opened up a lot of doors. So I've moved on since making the book to working with a lot of corporate clients. I think just having a book published, it really does a lot for how people recognize you. And so there's been all kinds of other invitations to amazing events. And this is a picture from a Jo Malone perfume launch that we did. And yeah, lots of influencers and lots of press, and just very kind of high grade event and beautiful photography. And like this kind of stuff, I get quite excited about. Funnily enough, I didn't actually get to teach this gig. I had one of my assistants do it, because this is when I was in Seattle with Kathy. I just landed and was teaching block printing with natural dyes at the studio there, and then spent 7 weeks touring down the West Coast, meeting lots of natural dyers and teaching workshops and doing book signings, and that was a really incredible time. And when I got back, I'd already been doing quite a few commissions and projects for brands, and the kind of quality of the projects that I was being invited to just kind of escalated. So this is one of my favorite projects. This is the Good Life jacket. And so the Good Life is a festival and a estate in Wales, and they have lots of things going on, and they like to make products really well. So this is a workwear jacket. There were 3 different colors. There was a pink, a yellow, and a brown. The pink one was dyed with lac. And the cloth is organically grown in Europe. It's a blend of linen and hemp, and it's sewn with an organic unbleached cotton thread. The cloth is also unbleached, and it's woven in the UK, which is kind of one of the most local sources that you can get in terms of that type of fiber. Naturally dyed with organic lac. It has Carozo buttons, which I also dyed, and the lining is also an organic unbleached cotton. So the whole thing is completely natural materials, all grown without chemicals, processed without any harmful chemicals at all, and 100% biodegradable. So this is exactly the kind of thing I get excited about. And it was really great to work with a brand who had the same aspirations for sourcing and biodegradability. Another one has been Minor Figures. That was quite a fun project. They produce plant milks in England in cartons, and they had a new product which was matcha lattes. So they wanted me to use green tea as well as other natural dyes to create a color fast green to go into dye kits, and they wanted people to be able to scrunch dye these sweatshirts. So I dyed the sweatshirts, and I made all of the kits. I think there were a few hundred of them, and that's just quite a fun project to do. So when the book Botanical Inks was launched in 2018, I was also concurrently working on the Bristol Cloth Project. So this is a fiber shed inspired system that's completely bioregionally sourced in terms of materials and manufacture, and 100% biodegradable. It's championing local craftsmanship, traditional materials, and nourishing the local landscape. So, I mean, there's a lot to say about that, but there's more about it on the Bristol Cloth website. But it's so while I thought it made sense, while the book is being published and there's going to be a lot of publicity, run the crowdfunder for the Bristol Cloth campaign. So there'll be lots of traffic coming that way. And so this became a crowdfunder. We had 450 people contributing to it and raised about £18,000 to make the first 200 meters of Bristol cloth. So it's regeneratively farmed Shetland Romney lamb's wool from North Somerset, which is 15 miles outside of Bristol. That's why we call it the Bristol cloth, because everything is sourced really close by to Bristol. It's dyed with traditional madder roots and well to give this orangey kind of red color. So two of our key traditional natural dyes in the UK. And then woven in the Bristol weaving mill on this Dormier loom, which was refurbished. And lots of fun things were made: jumpsuits, smocks, purses, laptop cases. People bought cloth by the meter. Lots of scarves, amazing scarves, which people cherish to this day. And it got incredible press. It was on BBC News. It was in the BBC newspaper as well as the TV. Sky News came and filmed us. It was a featured case study in the Fibershed book, which I'm incredibly proud of, because it really demonstrates what Fibershed is all about. And our big hit was when it was on BBC Countryfile, which is a British institution, has about an 8 million viewership, I think. So within 30 minutes of this program airing, I had sold 50% of the next Bristol Cloth production, which was insane. And thankfully, we had products listed. A friend who had also been on Countryfile was telling me, you really need to have some product because you're going to get a massive influx of traffic. I had no idea. But yeah, we took about £10,000 in half an hour, which is just, mind bending. So thank you, BBC Countryfile. So the first production of Bristol cloth was done, Kathy probably remembers this, it was done in these tiny little stainless steel 100 or 200 litre vats on gas stoves. This is in one of the kitchens at the farm. And it was absolutely backbreaking. It was really not good for my body. There was a whole lot of hauling pots of water and dye everywhere. And it took about 10 days, I think, just me dyeing all of the wool for the 200 meters of cloth. And so for the second production, there was no way that was going to happen again. And thankfully, I found a contact for a dye house, which is actually in the north of England, but still within the 100-mile radius of the Fibershed kind of requirements for a bioregion. And so I was welcome to come to this dye house and bring my natural dyes into it. We scrubbed down all the machinery. And I believe this was actually a suggestion of Kathy at the time. So thank you, Kathy. And this, oh my gosh, just streamlined the dye process so much. Everything just went in that one machine. It's filled with water. It drains itself. You don't have to move anything around. And then you fill it up again. It takes a little time, but we got the whole production that had taken 10 days before. We got it all done in 3 days. And then it was just drying time. It's probably even less than that. It's probably 2 days. So, that was incredible. And not only for me and for the costing of the scarves, but also this to me felt like a pivotal moment for natural dyeing in England. It felt like we're bringing natural dyeing back into the mainstream and into industry. And that's incredibly fulfilling and exciting. So this second edition was dyed with old fuse stick or dyer's mulberry and woven into scarves, again at the Bristol weaving mill, as well as some cloth. We took some beautiful pictures. Everything sold out and is, still just like living off in people's lives. And actually at the same time as dyeing this production, I was also secretly behind the scenes dyeing the cashmere yarns. So this is the cashmere edition, which is the third production from Bristol Cloth. It's using the only cashmere fibre that is produced in England. Cashmere is otherwise produced in Scotland. And it's from this incredible herd of cashmere goats. They're Mongolian grade, which is the finest cashmere in the world. And Their genetics were imported by Leslie Pryor, who runs the Beaumont farm and business, and they were selected and bred specifically to suit the English Devon landscape and climate. And they call it a holistic farm, which is similar to regenerative. It's caring for the land, keeping it in good heart. It's very gentle for the animals. They hand comb all of the cashmere when it naturally molts away. They see native wildflowers returning to the landscape because the soil is really healthy. Also, thanks to the goats, they keep the land in a really healthy condition. And they have rare butterflies returning every year. So it's a really beautiful and healthy ecosystem. And so this is the finest fiber really in the world, Mongolian grade cashmere. And it felt like the natural dyes I selected for it had to suit the quality of the fiber. So it had to be indigo. And this organic indigo actually was gifted to me from Kathy when I visited on my book launch tour, which is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. And so these were dip dyed, as you can see in the hanks here, probably about 21 times, maybe more, to get a really deep blue. But I wanted to show the variation from pale to dark blue, which if I go back, you can see then gives you this variegated effect on the actual yarn. And then once it's actually woven, it gives more of a kind of ikat style. And so we made the designs in-house with Bristol Weaving Mill for this one. And the second dye for it was also madder root, again, wanting to work with the traditional British colours. So across this and the first edition, there's the weld, madder, and indigo, which are all like our most important primary colours. So, and you can see there's this beautiful variation across the weave. It's a really beautiful construction. And every single scarf, there's just a very small collection of scarves in this production, and they're all unique because of the way that we dip dyed the yarns and the construction of the weave. It places the colors differently on each one. They're very beautiful. So yeah, so this is the dyeing for that happened at the same time as the other project, but it was woven much later. And so this is a picture of the actual finished piece. And honestly, like, it's the most beautiful thing to my eye in terms of a natural dye project. It's full of heart, and yeah, I love it. So yeah, so there's the dye house, where it was all dyed in, gosh, that was like 2018. So this whole project has been incredibly successful. It's been all over the news, in the press, and I think a really lovely thing is that it has been part of the Sustainable Angles Future Fabrics Expo 3 years in a row. So the first production was in 2019, second the following year, and the third, the cashmere, in the third year after that. And each year it's been featured in the innovation section as a really exciting innovation, basically. And so I'm very proud of that. It's had a lot of attention because it's been in this incredible trade show. This is a leading trade show in England for future sustainable fabrics. This is a really important show, so it's an honor. And every year you can now find Bristol cloth in the regenerative section on the rack, which is wonderful. So somewhere within this time, the pandemic happened. So the cashmere came back from the mill about the time where that all began. And so that really changed the business shape for me a lot. It had been very much about teaching workshops and doing collaborations and dyeing things in-house, doing the Bristol cloth. And then very quickly, Botanical Inks had to turn into a shop. We became an online shop where we were selling natural dyes. I was making up kits, using the kits to teach online. Yeah, I think it's been really interesting looking back through putting this talk together to see the journey of the past few years and how the business, because it has diverse income streams, and it has a diverse shape of what it can be. It's been really able to just morph and change as the cultural landscape has changed quite drastically around us. So, and I love being able to do something that's really varied, and I have a different day every day. But I think it's quite clever, and it's quite healthy to have a business that is diverse and can just keep changing as the landscape changed. So everything went online for a while, and I was very lucky to be able to go to Oaxaca and spend several months out there. And I think this post has probably had the most amount of engagement to any of my Instagram posts in about 10 years. So this is an incredible artisan cochineal farm in Oaxaca, which I had the pleasure to go and visit and see how they farm and process cochineal. So here is one of the drying rooms where all of the pads of nopal cactus are drying with the cochineal on them. And so, yeah, I spent a few months just getting familiar with the traditional systems for dyeing, dyeing over fire, outdoors, using all of the native colors, the cochineal. I think the master craftsmen there are getting about 25 colors from cochineal, which is like amazing. And yeah, and Oaxaca, oh my goodness, it's just like such a colorful, inspiring place. So this has really fed into my creativity since then. And coming back to England, I had some time in the studio of, more projects and sales and commissions and, lovely things. And then got this very exciting opportunity to do a TED Talk at TEDx Bath, which I'm not going to play here, but you can go onto the TED.com website and you can see it there. It's called Soil to Soil Textiles, and it's also on my website. But I love this talk. It's a really beautiful story about how we've got to the place we're in with synthetic colors, and in comparison, the beauty and the meaning of natural dyes, and the opportunity for ritual in dressing with them. And yeah, it feels like it's a kind of poetic storytelling. So if you have 13 minutes that you'd like to fill, please go and check that out. And it was an absolutely nerve-wracking experience, in honesty, but I love this talk very much. So yeah, check it out. I didn't have much longer in Bristol after this point. I was keen to get out to the countryside. And so about this time last year, I moved to the middle of Dartmoor, which is very remote and very quiet and peaceful and beautiful. It's a moorland, so there's a lot of moorland plants. It's a completely different scene to Bristol. And I've moved to this incredible big granite cottage, which houses my studio. And it's completely surrounded by plants and incredible diverse wildlife, birdsong, insects I've never seen before. I feel like I'm living in heaven. And now I can just walk out of my door and forage things and bring them into the studio and allow my practice to be very much about being in nature and being inspired by nature in a way that's much richer and deeper than before. The studio is very different. I do a lot of cooking over the fire, indoors and outdoors. And being here, it felt like it was an opportunity to look at traditional natural dyeing on Dartmoor. There's an incredible history here, and lots of kind of old disused dye houses dotted about in states of disrepair. And I've been really fascinated about working with plants directly for dyeing, as in whole raw plants, but also focusing in on the plants that are really abundant. So things like bracken, there's just absolutely seas and seas of it everywhere. And the part of the plant that has been given away and no longer needed by the plant, I find that really interesting. So I've been working on this project called the Native and Invasive Dye Project, looking at the native plants that have abundant matter that you can just gather and isn't needed. So a lot of windfall, and also invasives that just spread very quickly, and it's beneficial to remove them from the land. And yeah, in both cases, for native and invasive, looking at how it's beneficial for the diversity of the landscape to remove the plants, but also beneficial for the health of communities to remove them. Things like bracken are actually highly carcinogenic, and it would be good to have less of them around here, especially in the summer when they're sporulating. So this project's been really interesting. I've been looking at oak leaves, alder cones, bramble, which spreads like wildfire, hawthorn, which is everywhere in Dartmoor, and got some really interesting results. The bramble came out with a bright mustard yellow, which was very unexpected. And the hawthorn is this beautiful pink, a bit like avocado skins. And I've asked my followers online to select their favorite colors and then also the colorways. So these have then been sent on to 2 local universities to then come up with the next Bristol cloth design using these local colors. And it will be interesting to see how we actually can take big amounts of plant matter into an industrial facility to do larger scale dyeing. And part of this project, the Native and Invasive Dye Plant Project, which was micro-funded by Fibershed Southwest England, was to also look at that part of how do you translate the plant material into a transportable form, so into a powder pigment or a resin. So there's been lots of research into that as well. And then this summer I went to Groundswell, which is I think it's the largest regenerative farming conference in Europe or possibly the world, and talked on a panel discussion about this, about how farmers can be starting to grow dye plants because they're a really high value crop, how they can process them on site, the machinery they need, and what kind of form different plants need to be processed into, and then how to actually retail them. And this is a conversation that's growing and growing in England at the moment. So that is very exciting. So it's really cool to see how in the last 5 years, the landscape for natural dyeing has really changed a lot. When the first book came out, there wasn't any large scale natural dyeing happening in big dye houses, and there weren't any farmers talking about starting to grow dye crops. And this is all changing. So this summer I've taught here in Devon and in Dartmoor. This is the gallery that's just next to my studio, and been introducing people to the local native plants, looking at how to turn them into inks and woodblock printing, working with hawthorn ink and alder, and looking at how you can work with these things in a printed form with an idea to start looking at packaging on a bigger scale as well. So that's something next. And just looking at the time. So I should wrap this up fairly soon. But the project that has been really exciting me this summer has been working with mugwort, which I understand over in the States is quite invasive, but it's not considered invasive here. For me, this is a beautiful herb, and I've been developing a sensory herbalism practice for the last 5 years at the School of Intuitive Herbalism, which allows me to connect on a deeper level to the plants I'm working with. So going out, moving with them, somatically experiencing the plants, and allowing that experience to kind of guide a creative practice. So I had the opportunity in the summer to do an artist residency with Hole and Corner magazine. which is a wonderful craft magazine. And I harvested mugwort from the Hackney Marshes in London and extracted the colour in the magazine HQ. You get these incredible, I think it's like a witchy kind of emerald green. It's actually got a few different colours in it. I found the first extraction was a gold, and then I got a pale olive green, and then I got a dark emerald green. So that was really interesting because I'd noticed, having drunk mugwort tea for many years, I always seemed to have a different color in the teapot, and I wasn't sure why. And I learned through this residency that it was a different time of the extraction that you get the different color. So this is the HQ, and one of the prints I made. So I actually laser cut a mugwort leaf block into wood, and then was hand printing the illustrations using the mugwort ink. And this has just been a really beautiful project for me. And mugwort's a dreaming herb. It allows you to go into lucid dreaming and to open up your imagination. And I think it's a really great herb to work with before starting a creative project. So I've loved working with this plant, and now I hang one of these by my bed to come with me into dream time at night. And I've been touring and teaching workshops in this. This is a picture from Soho Farmhouse in the summer, where I also was doing book signings. So just a couple months ago, I had the new edition of my book come out, Botanical Dyes. And so it's a reworked version. It's got a few new dyes in it, including hawthorn, kutch, coreopsis, and it's been really exciting to launch a new book and to refresh and offer something new. So yeah, I think the focus now is really looking at individual plants and letting the plants be the focus of the natural dye practice and the journey. So hawthorn, it's a heart tonic herb. It's really beautiful plant to work with and to dye with and get your hands in. It's absolutely everywhere around here in Dartmoor, and the berries are absolutely at their ripest now. So it's a really exciting time to be working with them. So this is a plant I'm going to be working with over the coming months, going into winter, as well as the mugwort. And I expect next year I'll be doing workshops that just focus in on one plant and go through the journey of meeting the plant, seeing how it informs and moves you, and just like having a bit of a deeper dye practice. I'm also working on lots of exciting dye productions at the moment, large scale ones, big corporate clients that I'm not allowed to talk about. And so I don't have pictures to share about them, but it's very exciting, everything that's happening behind the scenes. And I should be back in the dye house in November to do some big projects. And one that I can show you is the Purdy's dye kits that I've just done. So Purdy's, I'm not sure if you get these drinks in the States, but they're natural juice drinks that give you energy, and they're actually quite delicious. They've been around for quite a while, and these guys wanted to have 3 different colors for each of their 3 drinks. So a pink and a purple and a green. And they wanted the recipes to be made with the fruits and the vegetables from the drinks, but also to be color fast. So they're a blend of things like mixed berries, but also with madder and lac. It was really exciting making these recipes and dyeing the t-shirts. I had the film crew come in and film everything, the whole dye process. And then on top of that, I had to make up about 600 dye kits, which have gone out to creators to upcycle pre-loved clothing. So it's a whole big upcycling, food waste, recycling project, which I think is really great. So that's just launched, and that's exciting to see what's happening there. You can see more about that on my Instagram or on the Purdy's the Purdy's Drinks Instagram as well. And next, I'm really excited to say that I have secretly been holding a roll of the Bristol Cloth first edition since its inception, and I am now reworking it into a collection of smaller scarves, which are perfect to wear underneath jackets in the winter. And so these have just been launched on my website, and they're going out to the stores this week. So if you are in the market for a winter scarf, this is probably the best scarf that you will ever find. So that's what's exciting me now and what's happening next. And just finally to say that if you want to hear my other news, then please just stay in touch on my Instagram, because that's where I put all my updates first. That's a wrap.
That was wonderful. So inspiring. Such a range. I love the fact that you're just like focused on one thing, you know, and really looking at it from so many different, just so many different ways. I'm going to go ahead and stop your share so that we can get Amy back into the mix here, Babs. And Amy, I'm going to hand it over to you to do the questions. Thank you
Okay.
again, Babs. That was great.
All right. Babs, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's see. How did you prepare the natural dyes for doing the large scale dyeing at the dye house? Was it an extract, powder pigments? Did you mordant the fibers in the machine as well? It's kind of a bunch of, I guess, a bunch of questions from one person about using machines with dyes.
Yeah, so it made a lot of sense to work with extract powders for the productions for Bristol Cloth. So because it's easier to transport them, it's a lot less time in the dye house, because every day you're having to pay for. And I think the dye house owners felt a lot more confident about using powders, because that's what they're familiar with. And the thought of there being huge quantities of plants arriving and going into their machines was a bit off-putting and daunting. So it felt like a simple approach to start this relationship, and to streamline the job for myself was really to work with the extracts. But I'm really interested in how to work with the raw whole plant matter to scale for future projects, which is part of the native and invasive dye plant research. Because that feels possible. And yeah, I think that will happen next, because it takes a lot of energy out of the system if you don't have to reduce something down into a powder form, especially when you live in a cold country. So yeah, I think that will happen. And then with the mordanting, yeah, we did the mordanting in the machines as well. So yeah, it would be washing, scouring, mordanting, dyeing, washing. That will all happen in one machine. And then it goes, it gets probably respun from the cone. Oh no, it was dyed on the hank. So it would then be dried in the drying room and then be rewound from the cone from the hank onto the cone. So yeah, that's the process.
Which, when you start thinking about all the different steps to that process, why things cost as much as they do as well. I think that's like it's always interesting to hear a product go from concept to creation, and how many steps there are to create something that even people who are steeped in like natural dye and regional textile knowledge, I mean, they're just like, people still don't get the true cost of things.
Oh yeah, there's so much, and there's so many movable parts. And like when you're working with a lot of different artisan mills, and they all have different production windows, if one thing is delayed, then that's going to affect the next part of the system, and you might miss your window and then have to wait for another one to come along. And it's a real jigsaw puzzle, and it takes a lot of patience. And there's always going to be things that go wrong. A lot of things went wrong in in all of those productions, but you find ways to then make them right again. So it's a huge learning curve every time.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Just
Kathy.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural dyeing. Okay. Was the cashmere used in the warp or weft?
The cashmere, it's all cashmere, so it's the warp and the weft.
Okay. I'm scrolling down. I guess before I get to this next question, I also thought it was really interesting that you were in the innovation section at that show, you know, where it's innovating the past. I wrote myself a little note here. It was like this innovation of the past. It's nothing new what you're doing. It's actually very old, but it's very sensible, but very interesting that they would put it in innovation. I love that. Okay, when you laser cut your leaves, which laser, okay, why is this cut out? Which laser printer are you using?
It's not a laser printer, it's a laser cutter.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not it's not a 3D printer. It's I don't know what kind of laser cutter it is. It's just a pretty standard one. But I work with the Plymouth Arts University Plymouth, and they have something called the Fab Lab, which is lots of bizarre instruments like laser cutters and 3D printers, and they do it for me. So I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's nothing unusual, really.
Yeah, it's cool. We worked with a Fab Lab at Haystack. When Kathy was teaching there, and we did a lot of cool things with
We were
those.
building dye blocks out of cutting boards.
Yeah, it's like this kind of fusion of tech and natural dyes and plants. It's always interesting to see the two perspectives on that.
It's really fun, I think, fusing the futuristic high tech stuff with the old world stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's see. Is the bramble color fast, and which part of the plant turn the cloth yellow? We have so much here in Seattle.
Yeah, I think I didn't mention that. So I had all of those dyes from that project professionally lab tested for color fastness for wash, rub, and light, and they all passed. So yeah, so the bramble passed as well, and it was the canes, and it was the wintering canes. So picked probably in like January, and they were purple. So I understand that the plants turn purple when they're stressed. So I was just picking the purple winter canes. There's probably some leaf in there as well, but the leaf was purple as well. But yeah, it's like absolutely incredible, the color. It's just totally unexpected.
Let's see. Babs, there's a lot of really nice comments in here about your presentation, and Eliza saying, your initial book really did help me find my way and gain confidence. It's so accessible, fun to read, and positive. I return to it often.
Thank you. That's nice.
There's no more questions, but I have a question about this amazing place that you're living in right now. Like, are you kidding me? It's beautiful. You're just out in the middle of nowhere in that beautiful house, and it's your studio and home.
Yeah, it's my studio and home, and it's absolutely extraordinary. It's really remote. Many days it's just completely surrounded by mist and you can't see anything. So it feels like just a safe little bolt hole in this vast landscape, which just goes on and on for miles. And you can hear owls at night, and yeah, just like in the summer, the dawn chorus, it sounds like a tropical jungle. It's completely mental. Yeah, really quite incredible place.
Love
How did
that.
you come to that?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Kathy. You
How'd you get there, Babs?
Magic again. I thought I was going to move to Stroud. That was my idea before the pandemic, and then that all became very complicated with, you know, buying and selling houses and things. And after the pandemic, I revisited the idea of moving, and I wasn't really sure where to go then. It didn't feel like Stroud anymore was the right place. It didn't feel like it was really big enough or wild enough anymore. So I went and put myself in a few different places, pretty much all transition towns. So Frome, Stroud, Totnes, the Black Mountains in Wales, and then finally to Dartmoor, which I actually hadn't been to before. I'd been very near to it in Totnes and around Devon, but I hadn't actually been to Dartmoor. And I came to actually this place where I'm now living because they have some like Airbnb accommodations, these kind of lovely luxury rustic barns with wood-fired everything. And I stayed in 3 different places on site and absolutely loved it, and just thought, gosh, there's just so much to explore here. There's all of these giant granite tors everywhere and stone circles and deserted Iron Age villages and just like crazy kind of markings on the landscape, and lots of very interesting people living here, you know, people, artists and ceremonialists, and yeah, just very interesting types. And it's very close to some really wonderful towns and villages, and there's just so much to explore. And it felt like I hadn't been anywhere else in England where there was the perfect kind of percentage of nature and culture. Like it's really remote, but there's also a lot of really fun and interesting stuff going on. There's Schumacher College down the road, which is a world-leading ecological institution. And yeah, it's incredible. Anyway, while I was here, the cottage that I'm now in actually became available to rent because the tenant gave notice in the middle of that week. So just felt like I was just invited to be here. So here I am.
Do you
Great.
bottle your magic at all? Sprinkle it on ourselves to be in the right place at the time. Is that possible?
I can try.
Yes, a tincture, please.
A tincture, a Behan tincture would be great. Just sell
Yes.
that on your site.
Maybe I should. Maybe I
Yeah,
will.
do it.
There you go. We see
Tincture.
the spark in your eyes now. So great. That is so great.
All right. Well, I mean, it's 12:59. Why don't we take one more question? How about, are you planning to have any classes at your new place?
I have been having some classes here. So the native and invasive block printing one in the gallery that was here. And there will be one in the spring, which is looking at how to design and plant your own dye garden. There's the most incredible apothecary garden here. It's really very beautiful, and wildflower meadows and wood-fired sauna, orchard, berry cage. It's like tons going on, but this really beautiful apothecary garden that looks out over the whole view of the valley. And we started planting a dye garden there, and we're going to finish it in spring and invite people to come and be part of the process and learn about how to design their own and yeah, everything you need to know. So I'll be teaching that in collaboration with a really wonderful local herb grower and the gardener here. So that will be really a wonderful one to come on, and we'll harvest things and do some dyeing as well. And yeah, I think there will be others, and it's more of a retreat space. So I'm really excited about how to have natural dyeing experiences that are more holistic and more of a kind of extended day of nourishment and connection to land and community, and with great food, and you know, not just a craft workshop, but more of an experience. So yeah, that's this place will bring that alive, definitely.
Excellent.
Thanks so much, Babs. It's been nice catching up with you this week too, for our little run through, and then seeing you here today. And just love, I mean, I'm sure I'm saying for Kathy too, like we've just both enjoyed following your journey and seeing your successes, and then seeing this peaceful place that you're in right now too, and the successes that you're having there.
Such a great transition.
Yeah.
You just feel really like grounded and open now. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice that you guys have seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, thanks so much for
right.
having me. It's been a pleasure to share And
Absolutely.
yeah, always lovely
you
to connect
guys-
with you guys.
I can't believe somebody's just coming in right now. Do I let them in? Okay.
I think we're
admit.
ending.
Okay. Well, if you guys want
All
to
right.
unmute yourselves and say hello,
Yes.
bye, and thank you to Babs, go for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank
Beautiful.
you so
Thank
much. Beautiful
Thank you,
presentation.
Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you, rock star. You're awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All
Right. Oh, Kathy, do you want
Bye.
to stop the recording?
I am hitting that button.